isolated some states and some communities from access to healthcare, access to proper water supply, and a lot of assistance that will be required to enable them sustain themselves, and even having to go about their economic activities that has also been grounded, and people have actually lost their lives. It's quite unfortunate, based on what is currently going on, and I would like to give us a preview of what the situation is. However, we have Mr. Elvis via the telephone today. He will actually give us some realistic description of what is going on in some of the states, because he's currently in Benue at the moment. And I must tell you that it has not been easy for a lot of Nigerians going through this ordeal. I'm sure we've been watching the news outlets across most of the television and some radio stations. We listen to what is currently ongoing. We're also trying to see how we can, some government agencies and non-governmental organizations are trying to see how they can help, how they can be of assistance to most of the families who have been displaced, homes that have been submerged, not to talk about the health implications this is going to cause. And the essence of the conversation today is not just to create awareness, but for you to share experiences. If you have relatives who are actually in those areas, Anambra, Delta, Lokoja, even some parts of Abuja right now, you can't access those routes. If you have relatives there, be well appreciated when you call in on the program. All right, but let's give you some statistics. Let us try to hear what basically the general purview of what the flooding has caused and the areas specifically affected by this. More than 603 people have died. More than 603 people have died. 1.3 million people have been displaced in the worst flood Nigeria has experienced in over a decade. The last time was in 2012, but it wasn't as severe as what we're currently experiencing. Thousands of homes and large swath of farmland, roads, and other critical infrastructure have been either damaged or destroyed. The widespread flooding was prompted by extreme rainfall and release of water from a dam in Cameroon, which of course Nigeria is a neighbor to. Now, more than the 600 people who have died are actually persons residing in those areas where this flood has actually overtaken, and the flood water broke a riverbank and is overflowing into settlements in Lokoja. Thousands of homes, large swathlands. Nigeria has put forward a national response plan for state and local government and has provided food and supplies to some of the states, especially Lokoja currently. Flooding has impacted 27 of the country's 36 states. You can see how severe the situation is. Like as I was saying earlier before I introduced the program, that we know what is going on. We are hearing it from several outlets, but we need to emphatically buttress how important we need to address the situation and hear from you as well. We cannot overflog the issue because it's affected about 27 states across the federation. It is deploring economically. It is not something we need to be thinking about, considering how inflation has risen. It is not something we want to consider now. Nigeria is really going through a lot, and having this particular situation occur is another hard-brought impact on the national economy. Okay, so Sadia Umar Farouk, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, said this week that states and local governments failed to take adequate action to prepare for the extreme flood despite the forecast, and urged local communities to take heed of climate predictions. Farouk also called on officials to prepare for more flooding by evacuating people residing in communities. Okay, so it is good that she tried to give a national response and try to create the awareness of the flood having to go on possibly almost for till December, possibly until the water begins to recede. But most of the members residing in these communities, where do you want them to evacuate themselves and get to? I mean, this is basically their home of abode. This is where they have their land. This is where they go about their economic activities. So where do they go? If you're providing shelter for them, of course, we do know the shelter is not going to be enough. So when such national responses come up to such a situation like this, that we will consider a disaster, sometimes when most of these appeals are made or some of these responses are done to address most of the endemic issues or a natural disaster like this occurring, we need to consider how plausible it is or how viable it is for this to actually take place. When you tell indigents who have resided in these areas all through their lives, their economic activities is basically where they do it. You know, their schooling, their children, everything is located in that area. Some of them don't even have relatives in other parts of the state. So when you tell them to get out of those areas where they reside, where do they go? Where do they reside? So when national responses come up like this, we need to understand how realistic it's going to be to evacuate these people. Unfortunately, a lot of individuals are in their homes submerged in water, living in it. In fact, I saw a video recently of a woman who gave birth in that condition. So we're going to play some audio for you to hear what the Bayelsa State Governor has said and what some individuals currently in those areas are going through. They actually had to share their experiences. So let's take a listen to this.
As we were in the cemetery, I saw something's flowing out, coming out when the water is coming. Immediately I saw it, that first one was casket with it come outside. Then the second one that we bury without casket to float and come outside. I don't know what to do, so I need to drag them with my colleagues to the corner side of the cemetery to find where to put them, because the corner side of the cemetery, that time the water was not up to this level. So we look for a solution because we are living there with our family and our children.
We're talking about discharge of effluents that are full of bacteria into this water. And of course, the underground water is also affected. And that means a very serious health threat to humans that are living within this place. And I think that this is the premise, one of the very logical reasons why inhabitants of this community are appealing very passionately and strongly to the governor that there is now need, in the face of what we have seen, there's need for the cemetery to be shut down and the cemetery to be relocated to a better place.
Whatever in my house, you go reach my neck. You go reach my neck. See me with my wife, the back they go.
So we can actually hear precisely what the indigents in that community are going through. Let's also listen to Governor Dioyediri of Bayelsa State.
We have been totally separated from the rest of the world. So it's pathetic. It's something that you can't even wish your enemy to be. So I'm happy that the federal government responded by saying that they have not abandoned Bayelsa State and gave immediate order to all those emergency departments and agencies and all federal agencies to immediately come to the aid of Bayelsa State.
All right. Meanwhile, the Australian government has warned its citizens to desist from traveling to Nigeria over the recent flooding that has ravaged some parts of the country. And this was contained in a travel advisory issued to Australians on the consulate's website. The statement reads, and quote, "There have been significant casualties and widespread damage to infrastructure caused by severe flooding. Essential services may be disrupted. Follow the advice of local authorities and check the media for updates." The consulate further alerted its citizens to research routes and get professional security advice and support before departing to Nigeria if there is any need to be here. So that is the current situation that we're currently facing right now. And I would say that it is actually heart-wrenching. It is something I feel a lot of us should feel. We here in Lagos, Osun State, and some of the, southwestern states, I don't know if we have relatives along these areas, these 27 states currently being affected by the flood. But I'm sure that with most of us who have, can actually express the ordeal, right, if you call in the program, because like I said, if you have relatives that you can speak with or friends and families who reside in those areas and have not been able to relocate, to areas that are currently not experiencing the flood, I would encourage that if there is any help anyone can render, it is important that this is the time to do so. The government may not be able to handle this alone, and then of course we do not have sufficient non-governmental organization to do the needful. However, live on Issues in the News today. That is a conversation we are having. The devastating effects of the flood currently ongoing. In fact, because of that, the NLNG has actually called for a force majeure on its pipeline. That means that gas could actually spike. Let's listen to an economic advisor and a policymaker, Muda Yusuf, talking about if that actually happens, the economic impact that would have, especially in the country. Like I said earlier, inflation is on the rise. He mentioned that if that happens, that's a major pipeline that distributes gas supply, and it may not affect electricity, but then gas, of course, will definitely go on the rise. Let's listen to Muda Yusuf.
The situation of gas supply in the country. Already one of the major factors fueling inflation in Nigeria is the cost of gas. The cost of gas has gone up, particularly LPG has gone up by more than 50%. So if we now have a situation where there's a major disruption in production, the situation will be much worse. So that means that for many households, affordability will become a big problem. And also for industries, some industries also depend on this compressed natural gas or even the LPG itself. But it will also affect production in some industries that use gas. And it will lead to high cost and all of that. So it is not good news at all, but our prayer is that the disruption will not last for too long so that they can resume production. It will also affect government revenue. I mean, government has a lot of revenue by way of tax revenue and dividend from the gas sector. But that also will be affected. And we already have a situation where we have very high fiscal deficit, and that may now worsen the level of deficit in the budget.
All right, my name is Esther Machuku, and I want to say welcome to Issues in the News. I have the telephone Mr. Elvis Elimihele. He is a public affairs commentator, an analyst, a civic advocate, and like I say, he's actually part of the House. You know, he always comes in to analyze issues, and he's currently in Benue State. He will definitely express to us and tell us what exactly he has experienced and the economic impact that has had, especially along those axes. Mr. Elvis, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Esther. Hi, everyone.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm good. Thank you.
All right. So we're talking about the devastating effect of the flood currently ravaging about 27 states of the Nigerian Federation. And I need you to actually tell us precisely what your experience has been like since you've been out of Lagos.
Yeah, Esther, the issue of the flooding that has taken over some part of Nigeria is no longer an issue that has to be called a regional matter. It has to be declared a national emergency, the way it has gone so far now. Even if you are talking about North Central, especially Kogi, Benue, and that, it has now gone down to Bayelsa, Rivers, and Delta. So it has cut across more than 2 geopolitical zones from this country now. Not just cutting across, all that is produced from those areas, are supplied generally around Nigeria. And so even if you are living in up north, probably it has not gotten to where you are, or you are in Lagos or other states in the west, or you've not experienced this physically. But the economic impact is flowing into every home in Nigeria. You can imagine what the NLG man just said now, talking about Nigeria National Liquefied Gas, talking about shutting down if it persists. And if that happens, already gas is part of those that we are talking about that has made the inflation to be so badly experienced by Nigeria. Now we are talking about 20.77 inflation percent of inflation. This has not even happened. It is difficult for Nigerians to afford gas to cook in their respective home. Now that this one has happened, and if it persists, I don't know where we are, what is going to happen to Nigerians. Then let's even bring it down to head. Look at Bayelsa. Costs are being exhumed from cemetery, flowing, and this water is also flowing. Human beings are living in that environment. Have you thought of the health implication to the people that are living in that type of environment? Then you are talking about cholera, and all waterborne diseases associated with such. Yet these guys have no water to drink. Some of them are where they drink water from have been affected by this flood that are carrying this kind of costs from mortuary, from cemetery. I don't know how early the federal government is going to meet the needs of the people that are affected, because that's why I'm saying this should be declared a national emergency. NEMA and Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs have to double up their activities to reach our Nigerians that are living in this flooded area, to be supplied with especially water and food. You don't know what it means when somebody cannot get clean water to drink. We are not even talking of food yet now. They don't even have where to enter and say, we want to cook, because their homes have been taken over by this flood. So Nigeria government at the moment has to make it a national emergency to reach Nigerians in these flood-prone areas that have been devastated. So many homes, so many businesses are closing down. The supply chain is completely cut off in most parts of Nigeria, because people cannot move their goods from one part of the country to another. The fuel crisis that we've had in Abuja for the past 2 weeks is still persisting because of supply chain. Tankers cannot move into the Federal Capital Territory for distribution of fuel to petrol stations. And even neighboring states like Niger, Plateau, Benue, and Kogi, these are Nigerians are living in this area. So I am really appealing to the federal government to double up their efforts to reach these states and Nigerians that are living there to ameliorate the situation. I saw some state governors, paying kind of solidarity visit to Kogi to, commiserate with the government. It is not just about that alone, 50 million and all that. What we are experiencing is more than 50 million matter. Federal government should quickly deploy all that is needed. The health ministry should do their job immediately, and the humanitarian ministry should do its job, and even NEMA should come in. Let them first of all think of how to move out Nigerians from these flood homes, move them out to proper rehabilitation centers, not just going to dump them in the IDP camp like the terrorists, the people that are the victim of terrorist situation in Nigeria are dumped somewhere. These are Nigerians that were living in their homes before this flood came. They should be taken to where they can adequately be rehabilitated and given good treatment, health-wise, and be given good accommodation to live for the time being. We know the flood is going to go back, but we don't know how long it's going to take. Whether it's going to take another 1 month, another 2 months, we don't know. But these Nigerians should not be left in this situation they find themselves, because they never planned for this. The flood came. Yes, I know NIMET has warned that there's going to be, some states are going to be flooded this year. But again, Nigerians, when the warning is coming in, Nigerians don't take precaution. Nigerians don't even think of how to move, even on their own. Even those that move now, the thing has so spread that even some parts of Nigeria, some places they move to, has also been engulfed by the flooding. But the warning is important and is necessary. And again, we should heed to this type of warning, because it is better for us to salvage it before it gets to this level. Yeah, every year we hear that Cameroon, Lokogoma Dam in Cameroon releases water into Nigeria. Why don't we think of how to ameliorate this situation? Nigeria alone has over 300 dams. How are these dams maintained? Dams are supposed to be defilled every year, so that when the rainy season comes, the water is rising in the respective river. It will not overflow its banks. Most of these dams are not maintained.
They are just built, nobody and just left like that. Now, all the river banks that are supposed to have, be a shield to Nigeria have been taken over. Now again, Nigerians are finding it very convenient as leisure these days to build along river banks, because they want to get fresh air along ocean banks, want to get fresh air from the river and from the ocean. That's where we are fulfilling and building. We've forgotten that anytime the water rises, you need to have an ample space for it to flow to as its banks to accommodate it. But today, homes are built along river banks, ocean banks in Nigeria. If you look at Lagos, if you are driving through Third Mainland Bridge, just take a look at Oroshoki. You see the feeling that is going on that lagoon, and people are building. If water does not find a convenient channel to flow into, especially when it rises, it now begins to flow into people's homes. These are precautionary measures that the planning, the urban regional planning, all over Nigeria Fiscal Planning Department ought to begin to give adequate information to Nigerians that want to build, and look at the areas that you are talking of building on, whether such plans should be approved for such area. There are so many things that have gone on before now. We are experiencing it now. This is why it's in the news. By the time this flood recedes tomorrow, life is back to normal. Nigerians who have forgotten what we are going through now. We had this kind of devastating situation in 2012. We had it in 2014. Today we are having it now. When it is gone again, nobody will remember. It becomes business as usual. Let us have the culture of how to forestall this type of situation before it gets out of hand. Produce from so many countries, from so many companies cannot move. As a result, prices are going up, skyrocketing. And this is even end of the year where everybody is like, let me begin to think of how to stock up. It's not even available. The few ones that are available, Nigerians cannot even afford it. So it is an issue that the federal government should quickly look into and think of how to rescue Nigerians from what we are going through at the moment.
That was quite well described, Mr. Elvis. Thank you so much. Because like you rightly said, let's actually see and realize what the cost implication of this is going to be, especially when the water begins to recede. Now, either the federal government or state government will have to spend money in having to rehabilitate some of these settlements. That's number one. Also, the citizens or the individuals, residing in those areas will now need to see how they need to revive their farmland so that they can continue with their businesses. And that is also another cost implicating measure they would have to get into. Let's also talk about the health implication. Now, before we begin to hear of some disease breakouts in most of these settlements, especially because right now we heard where these individuals said corpses from the cemetery are beginning to float into the water, and that is not good at all. So you see people wading through this water to navigate from one place to another. They basically are not warm, so you can have severe cases of cholera, you have severe cases of pneumonia. And what about the aged, whom right at this particular moment could be a burden to most people, because right now everyone is trying to see how they can survive. The mothers would want to have to see how they can place their babies and their children in safe conditions. Also, let's also talk about how most roads have actually been blocked because of this flood. In fact, some areas have been completely cut off. So to get things across to them is either you have to go through a chopper. In fact, you actually have to go with a helicopter to access most of these towns that are currently going through this flood. It is not a situation that we need to be mum about. The fact that we're not experiencing it in this part of the world, I must tell you, is a huge burden right now. We may not know yet until give it a few weeks. You begin to see how cost of food has gone up higher than what we normally used to hear about. And then again, of course, you know how some Nigerians like to take advantage of these situations. Greed comes in. Like the NLNG that is already declared a force majeure in its pipeline. Like I said, of course, gas prices are definitely going to increase, and some stations that actually dispense gas may increase it beyond what it's supposed to be. This is where they take advantage of what is going on and impel people to more frustrating circumstance. So right now, it's almost like the problems are just all over the place, and Nigerians who are barely surviving. Average Nigerians who are just trying to cope and survive, finding it difficult to on a daily basis. These are the situations that we're currently considering right now.
Yes, Esther, this is where we are supposed to be our brother's keeper.
Yes.
As it is now, because these Nigerians that are being affected by these problems are Nigerians like us. Now, if you get to the market, what you hear now is that there is no road. Flood has cut us everywhere.
Yes.
As a result of that, prices of foodstuffs have skyrocketed. The people that are selling in the market are not looking at, that the Nigerians that are affected here are also Nigerians. Now they are seeing it as business. This is my opportunity to quickly act smart and make more money. We ought to see ourselves now like, it could be me. This could have happened to anybody. You know, but Nigerians are not seeing it that way. Again, you see, apart from the economy now and the head, the security implication is also there. There's going to be kind of rural. There's going to be migration. People are migrating out of this flood-prone area to area where the flood has not gotten to. And when they get there, they don't have any business to be doing. They don't have any job.
So they begin to pilfer. They begin to steal.
They are going to be constituting nuisance. They're going to become constituting nuisance and become security threat to people that live there, because they let this flood area. They don't have any business in where they've gone to. They don't have any home. They're just going to become nuisance. And Nigerian government will not see to that, because even those that are going to be in habitation home are not going to be catered for. Tomorrow we'll be hearing stories that the security there are not taking advantage of the situation that these Nigerians find themselves in. No, these are some of the things the government should quickly live up to and be able to come in and start this before it gets out of hand. It is an issue that concerns everybody.
Yes, sir. It is an issue that concerns everyone. That's why we brought it right here on Issues in the News. Like I said, I know that we're watching it across several media forums, media platforms, and we cannot stop talking about it. It affects everyone. And like Mr. Elvis rightly said, we need to be our brother's keeper. If you know anybody that is actually in those areas, you can actually share experiences with us right now on the program. We're live on YouTube. You just go to YouTube and type Voice of the People 90.3, and you see us currently streaming live right on there. You can also watch us on the website www.voiceofthepeople.ng. So wherever it is, any part of the world that you are, you can watch us right here in the studio. Be part of the conversation. Let us also hear your contribution. Also call the number 0700 903 903 903 0700 903 903 903. Hello, good morning. Hello. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine.
All right. Concerning the topic.
Yes, please. You didn't tell us your name and location, please.
Okay, I'm Ike calling from Okota.
Ike from Okota. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Go ahead.
You see, honestly, the issue concerns all Nigerians, but I'm very, very surprised to see at least a governor of a state showing the exuberance of the riches of his state, but using it uselessly. So many states are trapped underwater. So many people are trapped underwater and need support. Now, in fact, I'm talking of Nelson Wike.
Yes.
He went to Lagos State to dole out 300 million naira to women whose husbands are very rich. They don't even beg him for money. But people who are there seeking for help, at least that 300 million, he can share it 50 million to 6 states of this, who are affected. Why is he using that money like that? Why? And tomorrow he thought he's a politician. He will come out to be a politician for people to follow him. Honestly, that is mad. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ike. Thank you for calling on the program. 0700 903 903 903 0700 903 903 903. You can also send us a WhatsApp message on 0700 903 9039. If you have a friend or a relative currently experiencing this devastating situation, or they're actually located in some of these states affected by this flood, I would like you to call in on the program, actually share experience with us, especially what they have told you and what they're currently going through. Because I must say that I'm sure they're going through serious hunger situations there. When the farmlands are already saturated with the flood, they cannot have access to proper food and health supply or medical aid. We can't just imagine. You don't even want to imagine what they are currently going through. They're barely just trying to survive, trying to keep off the water. And most of them, like Mr. Elvis said, migrating to dry areas where they can find some form of warmth and succor. Now, the issue right now is the fact that what can we do? How can we help? In what way can we try to provide assistance? Assistance either not necessarily financially, but otherwise, send food to these individuals, see how we can support in any way. Non-governmental organizations will definitely come in to help, but that would not be enough. So as individuals, what areas can we try to help? And then this is also the political season. We do not want political elites, we do not want presidential candidates to take advantage of this disaster to further their political ambition. This is a real issue. People are dying from this. About 600 persons have died. About 1.3 million homes have been displaced, families scattered because of this flood. And like we said, we already have endemic issues. We do not even have proper healthcare centers or well-equipped healthcare centers. We do not even have enough healthcare facilities to cater for any outbreak or any disease that could emerge from this. Also, the purse of the nation right now is lean, and then we're battling security as well. You can even hear the 2023 budget. We do not know. The government is trying to look for how they can finance the budget. So that means that they could increase taxes on major outlets or major facilities or major businesses that we get ourselves into, so they can finance the 2023 budget. So you can imagine what that means. It means that income right now is not going to be enough to cater for domestic use, for some personal use, and it's a truncating problem. So right now, what do we do and how do we resolve this? The number to call 0700 903 903 903 0700 903 903 903. You can also send us a WhatsApp message on 0700 903 9039. On YouTube as well, we're currently streaming live. You can actually send us a comment right on there. We'll read it out here for you anywhere in the world that you're currently watching us from. And like Mr. Elvis rightly said, that this issue affects every one of us. If you are not there, you may not understand, honestly speaking, especially for those who just decided to go visit or just do one or two things before they come out and then they got trapped by the flood. That's something I know that no one wants to experience, having to rely on whatever it is, any little thing, any form of primitive, basic facility to survive. And that is a scary thing to think of, to imagine. The number 0700 903 903 903. Mr. Elvis, you recall when you were talking earlier about what the devastating effect of this could mean. In other times when we've experienced this, has it ever been this bad, this worrisome?
Yes, this year's own has gone beyond what we have seen in the past. And I was expecting that the federal government would have actually prepared much more than this, and even the respective states that were mentioned by Nime when they were giving their reports earlier in the year. I expected that they would have prepared more than this. But what we are seeing on ground now is that most of the governors are helpless. I am not seeing much yet from the government regarding this situation. This is we pray that by this next year a situation of this nature may not arise again. But even if it does, you will still see, Esther, what we are still telling Nigerians now is what the federal government will still hear then from the federal government. Yes,
hold on, Mr. Elvis, we have a call. Just hold on. Hello, good morning. Good morning. We can't hear you well, Chuboza. Can you project better?
Okay, this is Ibete calling you from Surulere. Are you hearing me better now?
Yes, I can hear you better now. Good morning.
Yes. Good morning, my sister. Thank you for bringing up this issue on the program this
You're
morning.
welcome.
I am so moved and so touched and so heartbroken about what our people are going through.
That's
Some
true.
of us who are out of these areas, we don't know what those people are going through. It's only when it comes to our own area we find we know the impact of what our brothers and sisters are going through their within our areas. I don't have to say much, but what baffles me is that our federal government has not called for an emergency meeting over this issue in particular. Emergency meeting, and I'm suggesting it to the government. The government should come to call an emergency meeting concerning this flooding. This is one of the environmental problems. Well, these are the things, kind of things we hear abroad, happening abroad. When they have earthquake and all that, they move straight to fight the solution. But in this case now, I've not heard any emergency meeting from the federal government concerning this issue. I'm pleading to the government to please, summon an emergency meeting over this issue before it gets out of hand. There is something, there's something the government has to do at this moment. Don't just story. Please, this is just what I want to suggest.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in. 0700 903 903 903 0700 903 903 903. That is the number to call. You can also send us your WhatsApp message on 0700 903 9039 and we can read it right here on the program. Like I said, the conversation today is all inclusive. It affects every one of us and it is important for us to address this. The country is currently going through a lot. We're currently going through a lot, and having this particular situation come up right now is something that creates that sense of uncertainty as to how things can be. The federal government has disclosed that they actually warned most of these communities or most of these settlements that would be affected by the flood to relocate to areas that is highlands that may not get submerged in the water. But the question is, where do you want those people to move to? If you tell them to evacuate and leave most of the areas, the communities that they know that is their means of livelihood, their heritage, their ancestral home is situated there, that's where they have the right to go about their farming activities. You tell them that, oh, because of the flood that is currently going on or about to happen, before it became this severe, they should relocate. Where do they relocate to? Some of these families do not have other locations to reside in.
Let me tell you, these people, the way the situation they are helpless. They would have loved to be relocated. But the fear is, after relocating them, who cares for them? That's where we need the government intervention. They know that even if they are taken out of their respective community now, they are going to be dumped somewhere and no care is going to come. We see when disaster of this nature happen abroad, people are lifted out of disaster-prone area to safer area. And before they get to such camp, every amenity that is needed for somebody to survive are provided by the government. We see wildfire situation in Australia, in California, and in Spain. But the people are glad to leave because they know where they are going to, where the government is taking them to, is still going to be like a home. Not when they are going to be dumped.
Hello. Hold on, Mr. Elvis. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
This is Niger Info.
No, this is FM. Voice of the People, 90.3 FM.
All right. I don't know. I thought maybe I was listening to a program and I wanted to contribute.
You can contribute to the program if you've been listening to the program. We're talking about the devastating effects of flooding.
My name is Shakanadi anyways, but they are talking about role model. I don't think maybe that's the right estimate.
All right. Thank you very much for calling. Okay, so we're talking about the effects of flooding experienced in major Nigerian cities, and this is Voice of the People 90.3, where you have a voice. And why we are talking about this issue, it's because the situation has actually isolated about 27 states that makes up the Nigerian nation. And the reason why we're bringing it on issues in the news today is the fact that in as much as we have other prevailing circumstance, this affects every one of us. That sense of empathy needs to be applied. Now, in as much as we are also seeking the federal government to create a sense of emergency, to actually declare a state of emergency, especially concerning the situation What can we do as individuals? How can we help? The government can do the needful. They will tell you that they do not have enough money to cater for all these states currently going through this. They're trying to send relief materials via choppers, that is helicopters, to most of the individuals and residents along those communities. They're also evacuating some persons interested in leaving the area submerged by water. But like Mr. Elvis rightly said, if they relocate, what then happens? What do you do with them? Sadia Umar Farouk, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, said that tents are being created in some highland areas where these community members who are affected by the flooding can, temporarily reside until the water recedes. But after they're kept in those tents and in those camps, what is the consistent checkup like? What is going to be the terms of monitoring the activities, within those areas where these community members are settled? What is the plan financially for them? How do they intend to continue to feed them? You have mothers, you have children, you have men, able-bodied men. How do you help in such a way that they do not feel redundant and begin to become nuisance, like Mr. Elvis rightly said? Mr. Elvis, you were saying something before the last caller called in.
Esther, when it happens like this in civilized parts of the world, you see armed forces are deployed to rescue the citizens out of this kind of situation. Nigeria now, we are seeing helpless Nigerians, using canoe and all that to move by themselves. We've not seen the impact of government. Tomorrow, you will hear that billions were released to when this flood issue happened. Unfortunately, the billions will not get to the people that it's supposed to get to. People are happy now that a situation of this has arrived for them to swell their bank account and swell their pocket. This is where Nigerians should focus on. That things of this nature should also call for accountability even when it is over. Because we are talking about climate change. It may still come up in another from time on. It may still come up. We may still experience this. But how is the government taking it? Billions will be released, people will siphon it into their pocket, and the Nigerians that were released to rescue will be wallowing in abject poverty, will be wallowing in diseases and dying in diseases. Health workers are not released to go and take care of these people in whichever camp they are relocated to. How many states even have rehabilitation homes? How many states have emergency camp of this nature where they are going to be taken to? Many states don't have. But they can bring up billions to do things that are not affecting the life of Nigerians. Another area that will call for question is Nigerians must look out for government that will have the care of Nigerians at heart. That's why we are talking about that. We use this program to set agenda. We are looking at election in 2023. Are we still going to continue like this? One of our callers called in that 300 million or whatever was released by a governor to just an organization that is set up by Lagos State women. Their women in government. What importance is that to Nigerians that are in flood now that cannot feed, no hope? If you want to be, you are a government that sympathizes with the people. Do come up with programs that will accept the people that voted you into power. Not just coming to now use it as PRO, public relations, to announce your name. Be a humanitarian government to Nigerians. This is what we should be looking at. This call for Nigerians to open their eyes again in 2023 and vote in government that will be responsible to their plight when it happens like this. Not just government that will be junketing, traveling around and abandon them.
All right, 0700 903 903 903 0700 903 903 903. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Please turn off the audio. Reduce the audio of your radio. Please, when you want to call on the program, I would advise that you completely turn down the audio. It is important so that we can hear what you want to say and there is no feedback that causes distortion. 0700 903 903 903. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Olufumilade. I was listening to your program on radio now.
All right.
And people that called, they are complaining that Governor Wiki dashed out 300 million and all those things. Immediately the thing happened in the River State. It gave up billions of naira for help aid to the people.
Okay.
So what is 300 million? They can't easily forget about something. And that the man has not even stopped doing what he is doing.
All right. Thank
Just
you.
because he come to Lagos and give us something. And they started saying a lot of things.
All right. Thank
They
you.
should be patient.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling on the program. Thank you. 0700 903 903 903. 0700 903 903 903. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Arinze Kechuku, calling from Agoda School.
Welcome, Arinze, to the program.
It is my imagination how people talk. The last caller just said, what is 300 million naira? How we come to this? He gave out billions. He gave 1 billion. Now, is that enough? Are there no people he's owing in his state? Are there no people are in more dangerous situation? He's coming to Lagos to dash 300 million. Where can the resources of River State compare to that of Lagos State? If you're talking in terms of resources, River State can equal to Lagos Island local government alone. Why is he coming to Lagos to show up when his people are suffering? The people he's giving the money, what are their projects? What are they going to do with the money? He's doing all this rubbish in order to spite GDP.
Please
let's be
mindful of
GDP
our language on radio, okay? Please.
Thank you so much. I don't even know what PDP is afraid of. They cannot do away with him. Let him go and do his work. Before Wike became governor of River State, can he boast of 300 million? That somebody is saying what is 300 million that is dashed to Lagos State. That money is a mouth-watering amount of money that can better the life of so many people in that state. He's owing people, and yet he's dashing money. Or do he want to tell me that the 300 million is Wike's money and not River State money? Are there no River people that are suffering? Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling on the program. 0700 903 903 903. 0700 903 903 903. Mr. Elvis, you've heard the last two callers passionately expressing that displeasure at Governor Wike of Rivers State having to give the Lagos State government or donate 300. Hello? Good morning? Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Good morning.
Yeah, if this is better calling back, please.
Okay. I'm sure you're calling back because of the last caller who called. All right, go ahead.
Okay. This conversation is turning to political conversation.
No, politics is part of the conversation because, he's right by saying what he said. The flood is affecting everybody and all the governors need to see that there's something needs to be done as soon as possible. But go ahead and respond.
Okay, my sister. What I'm trying to say even is another suggestion. Giving out 1 billion naira, is it not enough to build an emergency camp that is made up of maybe fiber that can make us about 300 or 500 rooms and move the people to that side at the moment. You understand? So I don't know how we are running our government. I don't know what our people are doing. Federal government can call other state governments or to make up so much. Let us build up an emergency camp for these people. I don't know where are we throwing the money. I mean, I don't understand the way Nigeria is operating its own kind of governance.
All right.
My sister, I don't know. I just don't know. Well, now everybody is talking about politics. Who becomes the next president?
Yeah, this is the political season.
Problems we're having at hand. Honestly, it's so painful. I don't know the way we're thinking, the way our people are, our government, even the people that you expect not to do some things are the ones doing some things that are not really acceptable to the public. I just don't understand. I don't understand.
Thank you. Mr. Elvis, you've heard some of those callers. They're saying something. Why is the government not showing that sense of emergency to help the people currently going through this? And the reason why they seem to be heated up is the fact that in as much as this is a political season, they feel that the first thing that should come to the mind of most of the politicians are the dire needs of those people, in most of these areas affected by flood. Let's take this call before you respond to that. Hello, good morning. Hello? Mr. Elvis? Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with you, Esther. This is where we are talking about the major function of government is the welfare of the people. But unfortunately, in this part of the world, the government is only the major function of government in this part of the world is myself, me alone, and my family. That's where the problem lies. Okay, the people that are calling in, we are talking about the donation that was done in Lagos by the governor of River State. I expected that the governor's forum to meet now and even play that solidarity role.
That's true. Hold on, Mr. Elvis. Let's take this call. Just hold that thought. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. This is Richard speaking from Yaba.
Wike speaking from Yaba.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Wike, go ahead. Hello. Okay, we lost Wike's connection. Mr. Elvis, please continue.
Yes, what I'm expecting now is that the governors forum should declare an emergency meeting where they can quickly come to the aid of their brothers in this state where that are affected. We should be talking about Nigeria in unity. We should be talking about Nigerians that voted you into power, irrespective of the state you are from. Governors forum to quickly reconvene a meeting and say, no, our brother here is facing this kind of problem. Let's take out politics this time around. Let us talk about governance. Let's talk about the welfare of Nigerians that brought you into government.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Yes, my name is Koji Badejo, and I'm calling from Ipaja.
Welcome, Mr. Soji Badejo. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, and then I want to appreciate you people. You are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yes, it is unfortunate that the current flooding ravaging the country presently is very sad, calamitous, and came at the wrong time.
At the wrong time.
I sympathize with the flood victim, and I pray God give them succor. Yes, it's unfortunate that I did not personally know person that is affected. Although I know one popular senator, which is Senator Dino Emelai, which his house was submerged.
Wow.
And but what I want to say in a nutshell is that federal government, as a matter of urgency, should declare a state of emergency and ensure that these materials are sent to the displaced persons. Also, states, spiritual or individual should come out and help these people because they are in need of help now. Good morning and have a nice day.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I love that response. Thank you. Thank you. That's it. 0700 903 903 903. Let's take one final call and wrap up the program. 0700 903 903 903. How do we salvage the situation? It has come. It's here. We're currently experiencing it. What do we do? We've heard from you. This time around is a political season. Somebody just rightly said something that it's the wrong time for this to take place. It's the very wrong time. Unfortunately, it's here. How do we help? How do we help as individuals? How do we become our neighbor's keeper? And like Mr. Elvis was actually reiterating, he was emphasizing what is going on with the Governors Forum. This is where they need to come together and think on how they can declare a state of emergency and provide aid and relief to most of these communities. Mr. Elvis, what do you have to say before we wrap up?
Yes, I want to quickly call on the federal government to step up whatever they want to do to rescue Nigerians. Then I also want to beg the Governors Forum to be their brother's keeper at this time. And again, whatever is being given out should get to the people directly. Not that at the end of this, we hear that 50 billion, 100 billion was released, trillion were released, and the people that it was meant for never felt the impact.
That's true. That's
this
true.
Is where the federal government should quickly
come in. Hello, good morning.
For us now. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, so we need to wrap up the program right now. I wanted to take your final call so we can wrap up. Thank you, Mr. Alpha, for being part of the conversation this morning. As usual, you're always at your how wide your knowledge of expertise is confounding. But I must tell you that I'm quite impressed, and we are all impressed. And I appreciate you having to give us your intellectual input on the program anytime you're called on to help us divest the issue. So thank you so much. All right, and that's a wrap today on Issues in the News right here on Voice of the People 90.3. You can visit the YouTube page if you did not join the conversation earlier to hear and listen to what we said, and also send us your comment right on there. We would actually appreciate it. You can give your recommendation. You can also, support and help as an individual. If you can extend a hand of help to anyone you know currently going through this devastating situation right now, or any relative or friend of yours. All right, you can also follow our social media handles at VOP903FM across all platforms. And that is it today. My name is Esther Mwachuku.